Here we're asked to use the graph to evaluate each limit or indicate that the limit doesn't exist. So as we go through here, we need to be able to read these limits first. It's kind of like step one in the process. And so for the first one, it says the limit as x approaches -6. And then this little second negative sign here means from the left side. So when I'm looking at this here, I'm looking at the x values that are going towards the x value of -6 from the left side. So when I go over, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this right here is -6. And if I'm approaching from the left side, that means this direction here. So I'm saying like, hey, if I was going along this way here, what is my arrow here kind of pointing towards? What am I approaching as I go towards -6 from the x value? What y value am I approaching? And I see that that is -1. So again, limit is all about like as we approach some certain x value, which y value are we approaching? And in this case, since we're approaching -6 from the left side, looks like we're going towards -1. Second one is talking about approaching -6 from the right side, because that's what this little plus sign means at the top right of -6. And so I'm still looking at the same x value, but I'm finding my graph and I'm walking along it here and seeing what I approach here. And again, the point itself does not matter. What matters is what are we approaching, what y value are we approaching as we approach -6, the x value. And so that would be, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, because I'm approaching this here. So my limit is equal to 4. Then it says, hey, what is the limit as x approaches -6? And in this situation, technically our limit does not exist because the left side here and the right side here are not approaching the same value. The limit does not exist if our left side and our right side don't point towards the same value. So in this case here, I'm going to write DNE just because I don't want to keep rewriting does not exist. So if you see DNE, it means does not exist. Okay, next one we're saying, hey, what's the limit as x approaches -3 from the right side? So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Here's -3. From the right side, it looks like it is approaching -3. Then it asks for what is the limit as x approaches -3, and then it doesn't have a little plus or minus. So again, it's looking for what's it approaching from the left and right side. And I see here that both the left and the right are approaching the same value, which is great. That means my limit does exist, and it is approaching the y value of -3. Next one here says, what's the limit as, I missed a couple. Sorry. Number 6. What is the limit as x approaches -1 from the left side? So -1 is right here. From the left side, it looks like it's approaching +2. Then the next one says, what is the limit as x approaches -1 from the right side? And as we approach -1 from the right side, the y value is approaching +2. And then number 8 here says, hey, what's the limit as x approaches -1? And that doesn't have that little plus or minus, so it means it's looking for, is it approaching the same y value from the left and the right side? And we see in brown and pink here that both arrows are pointing towards the same y value here, which means that the limit does exist, and both left and right side are approaching 2. So what you can kind of see here is like a pattern where if you see that both the left and the right side limit are going towards the same number, then the double-sided limit exists at that number. All right, next one we got as x approaches +1, what's our limit? So +1 here, we see that the left side is approaching -1. We see that the right side is approaching -1. So my limit as x approaches +1 is equal to -1. Next we got limit as x approaches 3 from the left side. So 1, 2, 3. From the left side, it looks like here, and I'm making a prediction, right? I can't see what it's approaching, but it looks like it is kind of like an asymptote here at 3, meaning it is approaching negative infinity. So in this one here, from the left side, it looks like it's approaching negative infinity. From the right side, however, we see here it's approaching positive 3. From the right side, it's going towards positive infinity. And since both of these values are not the same, when we look at our graph here, right, when we look at 3, the limit as x approaches 3, we see that the left side and the right side are not approaching the same y value, which tells us our limit does not exist. So really, when we look at these different limits here, what we really need to look at is we need to know the one-sided limits, right, as we're approaching from the left side or from the right side, like in these ones down here. And then we need to understand like the double-sided limit. Are both the left and right side approaching the same number? If so, then yes, we have a limit at that y value. If not, then the limit doesn't exist.